Yeah, no, my name is Phil Brewster. I'm a reporter for ITV Central. This is a regional news station back in the United Kingdom. That's based in the East Midlands, which is where Neil Entwistle's parents come from, their home at Worksop in Nottinghamshire. Basically, we've come out to cover here this trial for the whole duration, all 3 or 4 weeks of this. We've been out here for the jury selection, throughout all the testimony, heard all the witness evidence, the closing arguments. And now we're just sitting here waiting for the jury to make a decision, one way or the other, on whether they think Neil Entwistle was the man that pulled the trigger of the gun that killed his wife and baby daughter Lillian. It's been a difficult time sometimes here. We sit here as part of the media, we dip in and out of people's lives sometimes, and we forget that at the centre of this story there is very much a personal tragedy. Not just the deaths of Rachel and Lillian too, but for the people that they left behind, the Matarazzo family, who have remained very composed throughout this trial. It's not been a trial big on emotion, I would say, so far. They've had the awful news of having to lose their daughter Rachel and their granddaughter Lillian at the hands of the person who they trusted, who they let into their family. I think they've used the words unbearable but betrayal. Whether that proves to be the case or not, we'll soon find out. But I think you also have to look at the Entwistle family too as well. There's nothing to suggest that they didn't absolutely adore Rachel and Lillian themselves. They too have lost a daughter-in-law that they loved, a granddaughter who, by all accounts, they adored. And now they face a prospect of losing their son Neil as well. Now, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's not really for us to say, but it is another tragedy. There are no winners in this case, I think it's fair to say. And of course, at the end of it, you've got Rachel and Lillian, two, by all accounts, a doting mother who loved Lillian beautifully. Lillian, we've been told, was a very happy child, and it's just a tragedy that 2 young lives have been cut short in such a terrible fashion.
We know that our son Neil is innocent, and we are devastated to learn that the evidence points to Rachel murdering our grandchild and then committing suicide. I knew Rachel was depressed. Our son will now go to jail for loving, honouring and protecting his wife's memory.
From the moment the Matarazzo spokesman, Joe Flaherty, stated, and I quote, "All we need now is the right jury pool. We knew Neil would not receive a fair trial. We will continue to fight for our innocent son with the hope that one day justice will prevail and our little granddaughter Lily may rest in peace." We would like to take this opportunity to thank Eliot Weinstein and Stephanie Page and their defence team for the dedication and the massive effort that they have applied to this case. We are not making any further statements at this time and ask that you refer any queries to our lawyer in Boston, Peter Parker. Thank you.
Can you please explain why you didn't stand up for the jury? What did you do to help Rachel when you knew she was depressed?
Good afternoon. I suspect if I were to ask you if you had a question for us, it would be, what do you think? How's your client feel? What do you think of the verdict? What I do have to say is as follows. This has been a very, very sad case for 2 families, one in the United Kingdom and one in the United States. And Stephanie and I did everything that we knew to do to provide Neil Entwistle with the most vigorous and aggressive defense that he is entitled to under our laws and under our Constitution. We are proud of the work that we did. We're proud of the work that we did for Neil, and we're proud of the fact that there is a Constitution in this country and a Constitution in this state which provides that a person have counsel and provides that the prosecution meet a burden of proof. Now, we disagree with the result that the jury reached. We disagree with their view of the evidence. And we believe that under a different environment, people selected to hear this evidence would have reached a different result. We know that there are very significant issues of constitutional law that will be presented on appeal. And because of that, and because of our confidence in the correct legal position that we took at the very beginning of this case with respect to the unlawful entries into that home by the police in Hopkinton, not once, but twice, that this case will meet a successful review in the Supreme Court. Because of that, we cannot comment at all about the trial evidence, and will not.
Stephanie, can you give us your reaction to the verdict? No.
Hi, I'm Michelle McPhee. I'm the author of Heartless, the true story of the cold-blooded murder of Neil Entwistle's wife and baby. Neil Entwistle, of course, has just been found guilty, a verdict that does not surprise me in the least. I spent a lot of time investigating this case, and I was surprised, not at the verdict, but I was surprised at his parents' reaction. His mother, Yvonne Entwistle, looked at me and scowled, "Rachel Entwistle killed my granddaughter. She did it, she did it, she did it." That, to me, was surprising. I asked her how she knew that. She said that they had evidence that Rachel was depressed, and I said, well, if that is the case, then why didn't they present that evidence in court? Why didn't your son testify in his own behalf? And she could not answer that question, but she was convinced that Rachel Entwistle is the murderer, which is an absurd and ludicrous defense.
I'm pleased with this verdict. I had no doubt in my mind that I thought he was guilty. I just graduated from law school, and I watched all the evidence, and I just think that justice was done.
Why don't you think Rachel did it?
How exactly did Rachel do it and the gun disappear? Too many holes in his story.
Well, it didn't disappear. It wound up at the Monterazzo's house.
Right. After committing suicide? I don't think so.
I'm here outside the courthouse here, and the verdict just came in on the Neil Entwistle case, and he was found guilty beyond, I guess, a reasonable doubt, which was surprising to a lot of people because they thought maybe that the suicide verdict would go his way, but I guess it didn't. And most people out here outside the courtroom where I am were kind of surprised. And that's the way it's been right now up until this moment. So
you think she committed suicide?
Well, I can't comment on that because I kind of doubt that somebody would take their baby and themselves. I don't kind of lean that way, I have to say.
And how would the gun get back?
And how would the gun get back, and the lifestyle? It just does. And you know, you find your wife and your baby like that, you run to the neighbor. I would go out screaming in the neighborhood, yelling and jumping up and down.
And you know,
I don't understand. You take off and you go away.
And when you
My
see
Lord.
death bubbles, that means the person just died.
My Lord, of course.
So he saw the death
Oh,
bubbles.
yes.
And
It
then-
just doesn't jive. I don't understand why you don't run to your neighbor, break the door down. Hey, get somebody here. I found my wife and child. Cripes, I have a little argument with my wife and I'm sick for a month. I don't understand it. Maybe it's the England way of doing things. But in Italy, we don't do things like that.
That's not
In Italy, we make a lot of noise.
That's not fair.
Hey, Gumba, you want me to tell the truth? I've got to stand here and lie.
Paisan,
I got to tell you the real thing.
Hey, che sai di-
Hey, mannaggia, lui di avola.